In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use a flash with your DSLR camera. So I have my camera set up here. I have it balanced on a tripod and I'm going to take some images of some flowers. I just have the flowers in front of the sheet of paper. So to get into the flash control, it's on the first menu, on the red menu here. And you just click on that, and then you can, it has got flash firing, and it's got the ETTL meter evaluative. I've disabled the red eye reduction because I'm not photographing people. So let's just have a look. You can either have it fire or off. So I'm going to have it fire. The ETTL, you can have it average, evaluative, or evaluative face party. I think that's face party shortened. If you wanted to take, say, an image of a group of people, like somebody at a party, for example, some people at a party, then you could use the evaluative face party. So for the slow synchro, you can have, if you're using program mode or AV mode, you can set the synchronization to different shutter speeds. So if you wanted to do it that way, so I'm just going to have it on the middle one. Built-in flash settings, so this is for the built-in flash, and because I've got the flash on the hot shoe, it won't let me access it. External flash function setting. So this is how you can set the flash through the camera. It's easier just to do the settings on the flash. You don't have to go through the camera. But the camera does give you a little bit more choice in that you can so we can go, you can change this to ETL, manual, multi-flash, auto external flash metering, or manual external flash metering. So you can have that on. ETTL is probably the easiest flash setting to use. With manual, you have to keep doing test shots to make sure you've got the light right. So if you're a beginner, I don't want to go into all the settings of the flash because that'll just confuse you, because this course is a beginner's course. So it's probably best to either stick with ETTL or stick with manual when you're doing if you're using the exterior flash. Let's just go back to that. And then the zoom. So the zoom is the intensity of the light. I did test out the different zooms with the speed light that I've got. So what I did was I had it on 128th setting, and I used the different zooms, and I had the light pointing at a screen, and I took an image of the flash as it fired, and you can see the 24mm, it spreads out more and it's less intense, the light. So the higher the zoom number, the more intense the light and the less it's going to spread out. So if you wanted to cover a wider area, for example, you would want it to spread out a bit further. So you would want the smallest setting, like the 24mm setting, if you were wanting the light to spread out a bit more. If you needed a higher intensity, you would go for the higher number. But you need to think, if you're going to bounce the flash off the ceiling, it's got to travel to the ceiling and then come back down again. So you might want to choose a higher intensity if you're going to bounce the flash off the ceiling. So if we have a look at the different zooms, we've got automatic zoom, we've got 24mm, 28, 35, 50, 70, 80 and 105. If you were bouncing the light off the ceiling like I'm doing, you might want to have it on the strong setting, because by the time it gets to the ceiling and back again, it would have spread out a bit more, and you would need a stronger intensity to reach the ceiling and down again. So I'm just going to leave it on 105, and then you can have the flash exposure bracket in as well. So it would fire 3 flashes and take, you know, it would combine the exposure of the 3 flashes. Can give a range of light as well on with that setting. Let's just go back into that. And you can also make it a bit brighter, the flash, than what is coming out. So if your flash was not very bright for the speed and you wanted to keep the aperture the same, you didn't want to change any of the other settings, you can change the exposure compensation as well, so you can make the flash a bit brighter. So if you need to set it to do that. So I've set it to +2. So that's TTL. But TTL can be a bit unreliable, especially if you're not using Canon flashes. I'm not using a Canon flash. Canon flashes are more expensive than the other flashes. This flash is the YN568EX2 speed light, and it is a fairly reasonable priced flash, and it does its job for me. I've had these flashes a long time, so much so that I've lost the front. I've got a few of these flashes, and this one I've lost the front of it. So for these flashes, it takes 4 AA batteries. It's always best to use like rechargeable batteries, because they do run out very quickly and it'll cost you a fortune if you keep buying them. So it's always best to have them on charge, you know, when you're not using them, so they're always there when you need them. So these particular batteries are Amazon's basic batteries, and they come with the charger when you buy them. To switch it on, you just pull this on off button and that switches it on. And then you can change the mode by pressing this button here. So if you want it on manual mode, which it would show as an M, and then you can change the settings. So the least bright light is 128th strength, and then it goes, it halves, or doubles I should say. So the number halves but the strength doubles. So you go down to 1 is the strongest flash, and then if you go, you just press on this arrow key here, and then it halves, the number halves, and the strength halves. So that's the strongest, that's half as strong, that's a quarter as strong, 1/8 as strong, 1/16 as strong, until it gets to 128. So that's the weakest flash. And the zoom, you can change the zoom just by pressing this button on here. And I've got this set wrong for some reason. Right. If you, sometimes you can set it so it's a master flash, so it controls other flashes, or it's a slave. And so what I did, so to change that, you would, this little zoom button here, it's got like a little Z next to it. If you press that and hold it, it gives you the choice. It's saying the master's off, and then you can turn this and change the settings, but you don't want to worry about that. If you've got that little flash on, you can change it to off and just press set to get rid of it. So then when you can change the zoom now, if that little master thing's not shown, Just by pressing this button you can change the zoom. So remember I said the higher number is the most intensity of light, the lower number is weaker light, and it spreads out more. So manual, you can have it on multi. So with the multi-mode, what you can do is you can set it to take different exposures, like you can have like 3 images in one as you're moving something. I'll just show you quickly in this example. So I've set up the camera on a tripod and I've got it pointing towards the black screen, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this flower and take the shots. So I'm going to use this flower and I'm just going to do that and just press the shutter as I'm doing that, and I should get a few different images. Let's do that again. So if I have you focused on the camera, so you can see there the 3 different images of the flower. Let's do that again. So with the settings for that, you would have it on multi, and for that with the flower, what I had it on was multi. I had it on 3 images 3 times. It's going to take the flash 3 times, so I only had a choice of 3 times, and that's because I had it on 6 Hz. So if you change the Hz, you can change the number of times you can take the image. And I had it on 28 zoom, and I just had it on a 1/4 flash for that particular setting. So the images, if we just have a look at some of these images, we can zoom in a bit so you can see 3 different images there of the flower. So the flash took 3 separate images, and so you can't get quite creative with it, you know, just by which direction you move the flower. So with this one I was moving it from one side to the other, and it's just a case of experimenting till you're happy with it. I mean, you can also get like a similar creative way of doing it in Photoshop, just by copying and pasting the image in different places. But this is how you can do it just with the multi-flash. So you can have fun with that if you want to. ETTL, and what TTL means is through the lens. So it sees what the camera sees and tries to balance the light according to your settings on the camera, but it's not always reliable. So the way I use it is I usually have it on manual, and then I have to keep taking test shots. So I would take a test shot, say this setting, and if it was too weak, I would just increase the flash. I would go up one stop, and then if it was still too weak, I would go up another stop, and just keep going, changing the stops on the flash till I got the setting that I wanted. That little red light means the battery's charged. If it's green, it means the battery's nearly running out. And if you wanted it on high speed sync, so you press that button and you see that little sign, that means it's on high speed sync. So that means you can take shutter speeds at higher than the 250, and it'll still so if you wanted to take, say, a picture of, say, you're throwing food in the air, for example, and you wanted it on, say, 300th of a second, you can do that. So it goes above the 250th of a second. And you can have it on second curtain, which is the flash fires at the end of the shot, or you can have it on first curtain, where it flashes at the beginning of the shot. So the flash has got like a swivel head, so you can point it up, straight up like that. You can have it pointing at the ceiling to bounce off, or you can have it facing whatever you're taking the image of. You can have it different angles, so you could have it pointing away from somebody or pointing higher up, or you can swivel it this way and then turn it that way. So to turn it so it's facing behind you, so if you wanted to, say, bounce off the wall behind you, you can turn it that way, and then you can swivel it like that. So I'm sure most flashes have this kind of swivel action. These flashes you can use the trigger with as well. I'm not going to go into using an off-camera flash in this lesson, or because it is quite complicated using an off-camera flash, and it's really more for the more experienced photographer. And as this is just the basics of how to use a DSLR camera, I'm not going to go into that in these videos. So the flash on this camera, we'll pop it up with that little button. Remember, we need to pop it up with that, and we'll just switch the camera on again. So if we wanted it to look at the settings of the flash in the camera, we'll go down to built-in flash settings for this one, and then you can set either manual, or you can have it ETTL. You can have it on first curtain or second curtain. You can also have exposure compensation as well. I'm just going to make that 0. And you can have a wireless function as well. But I'm not going to go into that at the moment. So for a beginner, you're probably better off leaving it on the ETTL, first curtain. If it's not bright enough, you can change the exposure on here. So let's just see what happens if I take an image of them flowers using so I've got it on ETTL, and this is why I don't like using the flash pointed directly at a subject, because I think it's a bit harsh. You can see all the shadows behind it are a bit strong as well. I mean, if you're after that kind of look, then you know, use I mean, it's good. I would think this little flash is good in emergency, like if you were somewhere and it was a bit dark and you didn't have a flash to go on top, you could use that. It did expose this, but like I say, the light looks a bit harsh on the flower, and the shadow behind it doesn't look that attractive. So if you can see how sharp that shadow is behind the flower, and the flower, I don't know if you can see there, the flower looks a bit looks a bit harsh, doesn't look soft, the petals. So for a beginner, I recommend that you get one of these flashes. You know, start off with one, and you can buy more than one. You can use them creatively as well, or off camera flash as well, once you get experience at using it. So put it on the hot shoe. You can have it in either TTL mode or manual mode. I think manual is the best mode to use, and then you can just change the settings and just experiment with them. You know, just so you could start off, say, taking an image at, say, 1/16th of a second. So if I just take that now, and you can see that's a bit dark. I'll have a look at that. It's a bit dark, so I need it stronger than that. So then I would go into here, and I would change, I would go the other way. I would go probably down to 1/4, 2 stops down, and then I would try again, and that looks a bit better. So if we have a look at that image, so you can see that's more exposed, and it looks delicate, the flower, not like when we had the harsh light pointing on it. So I've got the flash pointing at the ceiling, so it's not pointing directly at the flower. In my opinion, it's probably best to have the flash pointing at the ceiling if you're taking any kind of still life indoors. So that's an introduction of using a speed light and using the inbuilt flash. Thank you for watching this video on using the flash with your DSLR camera. I hope you've learned something from it. Until the next video, bye for now.